To which I would say many scholars agree that those are mistranslations. In fact, you will very rarely find a secular scholar who will argue that the scriptures teach anything else other than universalism. Because within the translations of scripture, Gehenna is one word that's often translated as hell. And Gehenna was a literal place that existed at the time. Gehenna was a place where there was a fire, an ongoing basis, where people would dump their garbage and pre-plumbing, feces, all of that sort of stuff. And so it was just this fire that would have reeked constantly. So it was a dumpster fire. And we still use this phrase today. When something is an absolute disaster, we call it a dumpster fire. And so that's what Jesus is often saying. He's saying, if you live this way, you will experience Gehenna. You will experience a dumpster fire of a situation. Jesus is not saying you will go to hell after you die, but he's talking about the very real circumstances here and now that you'll experience. And then in the Hebrew scriptures, there's a word Sheol, and that's often translated as hell as well. But within the Hebrew mindset, it was the grave. It was once again referring to death. And so all these verses, they're mistranslations. But at the same time, there are ones that just talk about fire in general. And to that, I would point to Malachi chapter 3, verse 3, where Malachi, this prophet, is writing, and he's imagining this future day when the Messiah comes, who ends up being Jesus. And when he's talking about this, he says the Messiah will be like a refiner's fire. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And if it wasn't clear enough, he will purify and refine them like gold and silver. And so when the prophet Malachi talks about fire, he talks about it as purifying. He talks about it as refining, that like a blacksmith uses fire to shape something into its proper form. That's the idea of what God is using this fire. It's this imagery of this purifying image of how God will make all of us perfect, how God will redeem and restore all of us. And so to the universalist, God's punishment is redemptive.